Hi guys, welcome back to another exciting tutorial from Blender Ignite. My name is Ryan Gryziak, and in this tip/tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to make a production ready game inside of Blender. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, when I was starting out and making the game, I was like trying to figure out, now once I have the game, and this is a pretty simple game, if it is at all, but I was sort of going like, okay, so if I'm going to get this game ready for playing, what do I need to do? Well, I researched up in Blender, and I found that, hey, there's an option to save this. If you go under File, Export, or if you don't have this option, the Save Game Engine as Runtime, you can enable it in your preferences. But when I was looking at this, I was like, okay, so if I save this, it will create a game sort of like this. Now, I've already done this to speed up time, but what it does is it creates all these DLLs and a folder with a bunch of Python, and the key ingredient is the .exe. Now, what does that do? Well, this runs your game, and everything runs smoothly from there. But there is other issues and problems associated with running and compiling a game just in this exe file. So what am I exactly talking about? One, you may be saying, well, you would never be able to run or get any type of a game because of the GPL. Well, let me show you about that. If I go into Chrome here, and I just open this up and go to the Blender Game Engine website, you will see that there is a GPL answer here, and on the top, can you sell your games with Blender? Yes, but there is a catch, and that is you cannot have your game saved in this exe or folder. Oh dear. And that's what I was sort of going like, okay, well, how do you expect us to actually make or operate our game if we can't save it as the exe? It gets also a little bit complicated because say you add materials, and you change this to blue, and then you go under here and add a texture, and then you can, say you open up a texture here just really quickly, and you pack it using this button here at the bottom. You can set that all up and get it all working, but you have to enable that for every single image and for every single model. Say you have a massive scene and they're all linked and they are all in separate Blender files. When I was exporting the game, I was finding out, hey, they could not even export the linked models. And so I was trying to figure out, now how is this going to even be possible? Because I'm going to make this huge, enormous game and then try to figure out how to pull all the assets in. Okay, enough complaining. What I found was that there is an easier method and one that I didn't actually know could work. And let me explain it to you. So what I began to realize is that what you can do is actually make your Blender file a portal into the game. So say I wanted to run this game and I want to get this cube here. So when I push play, I would see the blue cube. And I want this Blender file separate from the game. Well, I can come under here and I can save this game. I'm going to save it under game 2. So what I'm going to do is call this game 2. And instead of saving it in this top directory, I'm going to create a new one. And I'm going to call it lib. You can call this whatever you want, and inside of this, I am going to save this Blender file. Now this is the one I want to use. So under the game 2 here, I have the lib file, and then I have that game. So I want to access that. So I'm going to get this Blender file ready. We need to redirect the game from this Blender file into the other one. And that will mean that we can sort of cover our Blender files because it's not stored in some exe or DLL. We can now have a separate Blender file where we can save and store, where we can save and run those files. So to prepare this file, delete everything in the scene, come under here, create an empty, and I'm going to just push this window up here, change this from the timeline to the logic editor. So I'm going to add one logic brick to this game. So if I come under here, go sensors always, and come under the empty, I can scroll up here to this game here, start game from file, connect these up, locate the file, which is very conveniently it found. Oh, because I saved this game out. I can accept that. You see how it's in a local directory, and I can select down here where it says activate true always, and we're ready to go. Let's just test it out to see if it works. So I push play, you will see that the cube pops up. So that means it's just redirected the game to that file. Now, once everything has been set up in here, you can actually come under File and we can export it. So if I come down to Export, Save Game as Runtime, I'm going to cycle up here to Game 2, and in this folder here, I'm going to call this Game 2 and save it. And what this is going to do is it's going to take all of those libraries and it's going to compile them and save them here to the Game 2 folder. So now that it's exported, you have this game executable and it will run the game inside this folder. And that's really helpful because what it means is that you can set up a menu here. You could say, add a directory just for the menu, and then you can, create a new one for your, say, levels. And what it will allow you to do is have all the textures. You can link all the models in, and everything will work just the way it is. So I'm just going to pull up an example here from one of my other games that I've recently put on the website. And you can see here that I have a main game. And you're going to see that I have the Blender 2.7. Now what I found, and this is pretty funny, that when 2.1 was released, right before I released the game, however, it actually had something wrong inside the game engine tree. It had something wrong with it. And what would happen is when you would run the game, it would stall. But what I found out is that I could then revert, re-export the 2.7 and all would run fine. And you see that I have a library folder here, and under it you can see the menu here. It has a main Blender file and all the textures and stuff for the background and all the stuff like that. And you can even, get complicated. I have all my Python scripts here, but there is another way where you can actually create a folder, call it Python, and then have a init Python, but I haven't used it yet. But I do know that you can, pull these Pythons away from the Blender file, and you can link them all up. That character is linked into the levels menu here, and so everything is working just perfectly, and it allows you to organize your game in a very sort of production mindset. And what it also is pretty cool is that you can actually change anything in here without re-exporting your game. And that is very helpful when you're on a time constraint, when you're just trying to get this stuff out. So that was just a quick tip that I found was really helpful. You can export your games, and not only does that protect you from the GPL, but it also means that you can work on your game in that pipeline, have all the linked files, textures, and you're good to go. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tip, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.